December 18th, 1944. A frozen foxhole on the outskirts of Bastogne. Corporal Eddie Voss presses his headphones tighter against his ears. Static crackles, mixing with the whistle of icy wind. Then he hears a voice, clear, precise, German. A panzer commander giving coordinates. But those coordinates aren't for German targets, they're American positions. Voss's finger hovers over the transmit key. He knows what the regulations say. No broadcasting on enemy frequencies, ever. A rule carved in stone, the kind that ends careers, or worse. But 2 miles west, 300 men are asleep. Right in the path of that armored column. Voss takes a slow breath, closes his eyes, and speaks perfect German into the darkness. A single sentence that will decide who lives and who dies. Eddie Voss was a Signal Corps radio operator. His job, monitor transmissions, relay messages, maintain equipment. What he wasn't allowed to do, under any circumstance, was intercept enemy traffic. That was intelligence work. The reason was simple: too many risks, too much misinformation, too many layers of command. But Voss was never the kind of soldier who followed rules blindly. He was the son of German immigrants from Milwaukee. At home, they'd spoken only German until Pearl Harbor. He grew up fluent, switching between English and German as easily as breathing. During his enlistment, an officer tested his language skills, native level. He was supposed to serve as a translator in London, but a paperwork error sent him to the 101st Airborne near Bastogne instead. The winter of 1944 was one of the coldest Europe had seen in decades. The American lines were thin, supply routes frozen or cut off. Entire battalions went days without contact. In that silence, every voice on the airwaves became a lifeline or a deadly trick. Wrapped in a blanket of snow and static, Eddie Voss began to listen. At first, it was just curiosity. Fragments of chatter, armored movements, supply trucks, artillery coordinates. But soon he began to recognize patterns. Before the war, Voss worked as an electrical technician for the Milwaukee Electric Railway and Light Company. He could hear when a transformer was about to fail. The hum told him before the wires did. Now, in the frozen forests of Belgium, he used that same skill on enemy radio waves. He recognized certain voices, an officer who always began with, "Moment, Mal, wait a moment." Another who lisped slightly on the word Feuer, fire. And one commander whose breath caught after every order. A man who sounded tired, hesitant, maybe even afraid. Voss gave him a name, Klaus, a cautious man, superstitious. A commander terrified of mines. He'd already lost 2 tanks to them. Over several days, Voss built an entire map of enemy transmissions. Frequencies, call signs, operating times. He could identify units by tone alone. And then, on the night of December 18th, he heard the order that froze his blood. Klaus's column was ordered to move west, straight toward an American fuel depot. That depot had no reinforcements. If Voss stayed silent, 300 men would be dead by dawn. Captain Morrison noticed the unauthorized monitoring. He confiscated Voss's radio and notes, placed him under watch. "You're a radio man, not intelligence," he said. "That's the end of it." But Voss knew the truth. No one would react in time. Headquarters moved too slow, and the front was chaos. That night, through the canvas walls of his tent, he overheard officers talking. The fuel depot was nearly empty, the men withdrawn, the defenses paper-thin. They prayed the Germans didn't know. But Voss knew they did. He'd heard it himself. Klaus had his coordinates. For hours he sat in silence, torn between orders and conscience. He scribbled one line in his notebook. If the orders are wrong, then silence is betrayal. At 2 a.m., he made his choice. He slipped away from his guard post, found the confiscated radio in an intel tent, and carried it back to his foxhole. His fingers were numb from the cold, but his mind was razor-sharp. He remembered Klaus's voice, the rhythm, the phrasing, the tone of command. He knew exactly how German officers spoke, short, precise, unquestionable. At 2:16, he tuned to the frequency. 43.4 megahertz, a crackle, silence. Then, in perfect German, Voss became someone else. "Eisenfaust here, Panzer Command." A pause. Then the reply, "Panzer Command, this is Iron 4. Standing by." Voss's voice was calm, confident. "Change of route. Mines detected along your current axis. American defenses reinforced. Adjust course northeast immediately. Minenfelder. Mines. That was the word Klaus feared most. There was a heartbeat of silence. Then, understood. New route 035. Execution 5:30. Voss released the key. He had just redirected an entire German armored column into a minefield. At 5:32, the first blast tore through the frozen earth. Then another. And another. 12 tanks erupted in fire within minutes, turning the night sky orange. Klaus died instantly when his command vehicle hit a teller mine. He had followed his orders to the letter. Orders that never existed. More than 20 crewmen were killed in the explosions. And 2 miles west, 300 American soldiers woke to distant thunder. They grabbed their rifles, waiting for an attack that never came. Later reports were contradictory. A German column had driven straight into a known minefield. No one could explain why. No one ever mentioned Eddie Voss. By noon, Captain Morrison was back at Voss's post. He carried the notebook they'd found among Voss's gear. "Interesting notes," he said quietly. "A German tank column destroyed, right where your sketches predicted it." Then, after a pause, "The captured radio. It's missing. You know anything about that, Corporal?" Voss looked straight ahead. "No, sir." Morrison studied him. "Whatever you did out there, it saved lives, but it was illegal. If the Germans had caught you, they'd have executed you on the spot, and everyone near you." He dropped the notebook into the snow. "I'll write in my report that the Germans got their wires crossed. That you made useful observations. Tomorrow, you're being reassigned to Luxembourg. Not a word about this. Understood?" "Yes, sir." Voss never spoke of it again. After the war, he went back to Milwaukee, worked as a radio technician, started a family, and died in 1987. His name appears in no official archive. But years later, in the notes of an unknown soldier, someone found a single line. "Sometimes you have to break the rules to save the ones who follow them." Decades later, military historians stumbled upon a strange case. A German armored unit that, in December 1944, drove straight into its own minefield near Bastogne. No orders explained it. No records ever surfaced. Some blamed chaos. Others guessed misinformation. The truth lay somewhere in a frozen trench, in a voice that spoke across enemy lines not to deceive, but to save. Eddie Voss never fired a weapon. But in one night of snow and static, he fought the most important battle of his life. Armed only with a stolen radio, 4 days of observation, and the courage to do the wrong thing for the right reason.